Insight 87. Breast attraction example. The shape of the breasts. This is an example of how you're thinking, about the breast, and you're thinking, oh, I wonder how and why I'm attracted to the breasts. All right. The shape of the breasts protruding. It is protruding, meaning outwardly. The unusualness of the breasts from your own. There's differences between yours. The fact that breasts are connected to a female, you want to know it more closely because you have not had a chance to know it or experience it. Knowing that touching the breasts might be sexually arousing and pleasing to her, you would like to know her and for her to know you, and for you both to experience pleasure and connection on many levels, such as mental, emotional, physical, sexual, and spiritual. So, under the explanation, you notice that the outward protruding of the breast is attention grabbing. See, that's attention grabbing. Grabs the attention of the mind, because it is not flat like the rest of the body. They do certainly stand out. You notice that breasts of a female are quite different than the male. They are softer, rounder, fuller, and more sensitive. The breasts are connected to a female. Therefore, there is a relation between the breasts and the female. The contrast that we were talking about, or different things happening. This is the personality of the female and also the sensual female breast together. There's the relationship, and so this intrigues the mind. This relation intrigues you. You like to have a female become sexually aroused or sensually pleased. You know that her breasts are a sensory doorway into her consciousness. This intrigues you. Many would like to have an impact on a woman's state of emotional or sensual nature by the use of this seemingly influential doorway to her consciousness. This thought alone is a very alluring situation. You would like to know her totally and for her to know you totally. This includes the breasts as well. It is about knowing the mental, emotional, physical, sexual, and spiritual. Yeah. So you see that you like to have the intrigue of the mind is, part of it is you want to be the person who experiences a female being sexually aroused and see what she does and what does that mean. What is the experience like? That is, what is the experience like? And you would like to experience that and have her experience it with you, and you to experience it as firsthand and have the experience of pleasure given to her. Good. And of course, likewise, for a female, she would be interested in doing the same thing for the male partner. Okay, Insight 88. Analyze and go deep into the causes of your wants, clarifying and defining them, in order to better understand and know them. You no longer have to be puzzled and ruled by the unknown. You will learn to understand and govern the sexual nature and learn what a woman is and what a man is. In the explanation, I will read this. In privacy and silence, be completely honest with yourself. What do you want? It could be emotional, sensual, etc. Whatever. Whatever it is, name it, voice it, and think of it. Bring it to the surface of your consciousness. It's like a feeling thing, What is it that you really want? Just bring it out. Feel it and bring it out. Voice it, In other words, when you do so, you will become aware of it. Now truly think and analyze deeply why you want such a thing. After you voice it, why you want it. Why do you want it? It is important for your understanding to move from the unknown to the known. Know more clearly what it is you truly want. Identify the reasons for your wants. Why do you want that? Next, examine the validity of your reasons. So you want this for this reason, and then you want to analyze the reason to see if it's really valid on so many levels. Want to see if it's really true. So you have to examine this reason that you want this for, and examine its validity, its truthfulness. You want to see if it's. You have to observe it from many perspectives, just to see how true this reasoning is. Next, examine the validity of your reasons. Sometimes our reasons are imperfect, and we can improve on them. Many times our reasons are simply false. Sometimes it's a mixture of truth and falsehood. And upon figuring out, some part of it is false, you got to get rid of that falsehood. Get rid of that part of the reason that is false. Get rid of it, leaving behind it something that's true. It is important to identify the reasons that are false and erase them from our consciousness and from our sense of reality. You do this by taking some quiet time to yourself. You then examine carefully those thoughts. You notice clearly that they are false. You take your time noticing why they are false and why they were mistaken for truths in the past. Then you decide consciously to not have those falsehoods to be part of your reality in your daily life. You look ahead in your daily life, this is in the morning, and notice those situations that would involve those falsehoods. Then you can precondition yourself to respond differently if you should come upon such a situation. Or you can slow yourself down so that when some things occur, you notice, you don't have to automatically respond, but you notice it and you identify it. This is one of those reasonings. So I don't want that, so I'm not going to interact with it. So in social interactions, it may seem strange to other people why you're slowing down, but this is what you need to do. You need to slow down and be conscious of when you're interacting with people or situations. So you don't want to follow along and be led by habit, and also some habits are bad. You don't want to continue living a bad habit, or interacting in a bad way or in a false way. So that's why it's important to slow down your interactions, and doesn't matter if you're messing up social situations. No, you need to be a live person, conscious. You don't want to mess up your life. So you take a few seconds more, or a minute even, doesn't matter. However long it takes for you to think of appropriate response to a situation rather than a quick one. For example, I'll give you an example. Somebody might say, "Hey, let's go over there," and you think to yourself, "I don't know, I'm not sure. Let me think about it." And by the time it takes you to think about it, it may be too late. Fine, great. You may need to even go somewhere else and think about it in silence, away from your so-called friends or whatever it is, or job or whatever, just to think of what's the right thing to do. Is that something false? Do I really want to get involved in that? To make a decision, you have to think, and you can't be rushed into it. Rushing stops you from thinking. Okay. You have to give yourself a chance to think and make decisions. And if you don't go, you don't go. Okay, great. In order to deal with falsehood without preconditioning yourself, you have the ability to slow yourself down in each circumstance in your life, to notice when falsehoods are creeping in and halt their progress by not engaging in them. or by not identifying a falsehood with truth, but by clearly identifying either by mind, spoken word, or action that a falsehood is a falsehood. Okay, Insight 89. We will not rely on others to define woman and man. We will not rely on manipulators to outline for us how we should interact with each other in a sexual manner. We will not be incessantly pulled and pushed by people's teasing methods of mental manipulation designed to further our curiosity only for the sake of their pleasure, power, or profits. So, one who is completely honest with himself does not simply believe what others say. When others present to us their version of reality, we should not automatically accept their perspective as truth. We should think critically and discerningly. Learn from yourself. Learn for yourself that what a man is and what a woman is. Do not rely on others to present you with their version of truth. Do not simply just rely for that. Don't make that their version of reality your only perspective, Think on your own. Certainly take into consideration what others say. Discern through the truth, the falsehoods, and the possible manipulations directed at you. Insight 90. One should sit somewhere quiet, away from distractions, and contemplate deeply on the information contained in this book, and to become increasingly familiar with it, leading eventually to being established clearly in the truths and the knowledge mentioned herein. Do not believe in the version of truth that a sexually overt person chooses to present. It is best to have little or no association with such a person, especially when you are trying to clarify and adjust your own sexual viewpoint. Sharing your newfound and established viewpoint is all right. Yeah, so you want to, when you're in a susceptible situations as far as sex is, and you can be manipulated, you don't want to associate with people who are very sexual, You want to disassociate with them as much as possible. Minimize your time with them, or cut off or minimize. You can mentally disassociate, or you could do so physically, or both. Why? Because you want to work on yourself. Simple thing. Work on yourself, and you don't want outside influences to misguide you. For those who are learning and improving, you spending some time with people who are sexually overt only for the purpose of educating them or giving them information about this stuff is good. Other than that, no. So you're there to influence them positively, not to be influenced by them negatively. As soon as you see that happening, you gotta get away. Insight 91. Analyze yourself and the effect of your associations with others. If any effects are of a negative nature, seek to correct the negative effects by asking them not to engage in talk related to sex that is presented in a subtle, normal, or overtly sexual way. If they do not comply, seek to correct the situation by disassociating or minimizing your time with them, or in order to save your own consciousness and establish yourself in the correct, sober viewpoint. Again, this association could be a mental one, like you could be in a fancy party of some sort, or a party, and it might be too bothersome for you to walk away. You could walk away mentally without actually having to walk away. Insight 92. After you are fully adjusted, it is correct to associate with them, and upon hearing their point of view about a sexual issue, present your point of view, only in order to show him or her a way out of the limited lustful thinking. If the person is insistent on continuing with sexual talk without due consideration for you, then it is appropriate for you to respectfully disassociate or minimize your time with that person until they are no longer like that. Okay, so here under the explanation, I have example I2. How to think in order to readjust perception. If you see a female with heaving, healthy breasts, you might be overcome by that grand and beautiful sight. The striking difference of the breasts protruding outward against her body makes very effective impressions on the mind. Therefore, the reality of the breasts might suddenly take over your mind. It is good to make a mental note of why you liked her, obviously because she was a beautiful, healthy woman, plus the fact that she might have a beautiful face, body, etc. Try not to get sexually carried away because I want you to be objective in your thinking. Therefore, you need a clear mind, a mind that sees things clearly as they are. Replay the entire encounter in your head visually and see the world and other healthy beings. Think to yourself, how many people are supposed to be beautiful and have healthy breasts like that? They are not beautiful because they have unhealthy lifestyles. Okay, Insight 93. You might genuinely want to experience being caring, loving, and true with a spectacular person. Therefore, go out and be yourself, your magnificent self. Become what you believe is the truest expression of yourself. Then find another person who is also, as wonderful as you are, who has also made those changes in themselves. That is to be a phenomenal, spectacular person, a truest expression of themselves. Keep in mind your health, their health, both of your family's health, your respect, their respect, both of your family's respect, your emotions, their emotions, both of your family's emotions, and also you're able to consider society, etc. Live and enjoy. So I'm just saying, be aware of respect. Respect yourself, respect others. I rarely mention the word marriage in this book because a lot of people get married and they don't have respect for each other. A lot of people get married and they don't really value each other. So what is important? They're not really committed to each other. I think marriage is a very important thing, and one ought to get into it, but to do so with commitment and genuine respect and love and value, so many things, you know. So I try to focus on those rather than just the showy name such as marriage. So I'm focusing on the words, on the actual love and respect and all these things, because that is important. And I want you to see and learn and understand that those things are important. Some people are not are not married, but they value each other. Value is important. Oh man. Okay. Continuation of the insight. 93. So what I am concerned about is what I value is genuine respect, genuine value, and that's why I don't use the word marriage necessarily much in the book, because I'm focused on the core values of that marriage is supposed to have. Insights 94. If you think that you and others are not spectacular, still it is good to interact with them. No matter what level of awareness you and they are on, it is quite clear that when dealing with others in confusing and conflicting issues, you are not to forget to be respectful, caring, and good with each other, and to be understanding, accepting, and loving. As mentioned in Communications of God in the past, it is beneficial to not get involved in confusing issues. I'm going to read a little bit about this. Oh, well, I guess I could just say it. No matter what level of awareness and development you are on, right? Just say you're here, the other person you're dealing with is here or here, wherever. Still, you're both phenomenal life. You are life. You know, the life that is within you. This is itself phenomenal. You need to be aware of that and appreciate that and deal with each other in a very respectful, caring, compassionate, understanding manner. Okay? Especially in confusing issues and conflicting issues. Try to stay away from them and open up the communication lines, or just stay away from confusing issues. Okay, we got 95. Insight 95. Physical pleasure of the body and mental pleasure of the mind are both present in the performance of the unusual act, which is sex. Sex in itself is unusual when compared to regular daily activities. The unusualness could also be because it is considered by many to be questionable or forbidden act. A questionable or forbidden act. Therefore, sex stands out more prominently in one's mind. So this is just basically saying how there is physical pleasure and mental pleasure in sex. And sex is quite unusual compared to regular daily activities that you're involved in. And so this, again, adds the impact to the mind. Also is considered by many to be questionable or a forbidden act, and that also adds to the unusualness of the nature. And that's why it stands out in one's mind. Okay, Insight 96. Generally, the more unusual a thing is, the greater its impact on the mind will be. The mind will be very focused on the unusual qualities displayed. Hence, the mind is able to be more easily influenced by the unusual information. So again, as an example, your mind, you remember things way into the past, usually of unusual events, or the first time you go to the circus, or things that were different. If they were happening on a daily basis, the same thing over and over again, and you can't distinguish one day to the next, it's hard for your mind to make the distinction, and so you kind of meld them together and you remember. Like, for example, I remember eating cereal in the morning and never getting quite into it because the bus was coming. I had to go to school, and this happened on a daily basis. I would put one spoon in. By the time I got one spoon in, it would be a doorbell. So I never got to really finish my cereal. So I don't remember each day. It's all one memory of that happening because they're indistinguishable. But things that are strange and different, then you remember them. Oh, I remember that day that thing happened. Okay. We're on insight number 97. All persons, jobs, activities, situations can add to the flavor of a sexual encounter in significant and unusual ways. This is true because each situation, person, and place has unique features that intrigue the mind as to what and how those features will interact with sex and add to the mental pleasure of the unusual sexual encounter. You see, the mind is intrigued by unusualness. Coupled with the pleasure of sex, The idea of unusual sex is experienced as intriguing pleasure. Again, the idea of unusual sex is experienced as intriguing pleasure. So basically, it's the mind is able to see when you're experiencing something, you experience it generally as a whole. That you have that ability. So that's what happens often, and you do not generally look at parts of a. You don't break down the parts of each experience, though of course you can. But generally, it is possible also to experience it as a whole, and so you have people, you have jobs, which is your occupation, activities like hobbies or any other activity, and situations like relationships and different. It's like situation comedies. Situation comedies are attractive, are engaging to the mind because various situations occur, like the dramas, soap operas, and dramatic theater or drama, whatever, movies, plays, whatever. They develop interesting situations that are intriguing to the mind. Very similar to chess. Chess pieces interact with each other in unique ways, and so this intrigues the mind because each piece has different capabilities, and so it's intriguing what actually occurs as when combinations of things are put together on the place of the board. It's very interesting how they all interact, and so it's intriguing enough as it is, meaning without having sexual encounter being part of it. But when you add sex to the equation of all these various interactions, then it adds even more pleasure, more intrigue. Intrigue and pleasure are put together, basically. Intrigue and pleasure are put together. Unusualness, unusual situations, unusual, differing situations, intriguing situations are makes the mind curious as how it will affect sex and how sex will affect the situation and what does it mean as a whole. What is experienced as a whole. Under the explanation, I go into the sandwich, having a sandwich in a picnic, how it seems to taste better than at home. And so I've explained this somewhere else, so I'll have you link to it here. I'll make a link so you could go directly there, and I've explained it in detail. Yes, so this is true. Why are jobs, people, situations, activities, why are these things, why do they have the capability of adding to a sexual encounter? It's because each of them have unique features that intrigue the mind as to what and how those features will interact with sex. Yeah, just like the chessboard. Each piece has a different move capability, motion capability. Just like, when you are having the soap operas, you have the doctor, and he has a certain personality. You have the nurse, she has a certain personality. You have the mother, she has a certain personality at the house, and you have the husband, and so many different people. Somebody is working at as a butcher, somebody is working at a different place, and some are students. So dads, kids, boyfriend, girlfriend, so many things. Each one has a different personality, and so this engages our mind into these various personalities, and when these personality interacts with another personality, this intrigues the mind. This is enough to intrigue the mind, but when you add sex to the equation, that even adds now even more intrigue. Oh, and pleasure also involved. And so and the mind is experiencing intrigue and pleasure together, and you mistakenly think that the sexual activity is the one that is really powerful, really mind-grabbing and intriguing, while actually the intrigue comes from the other differences, really. This is to be distinguished from the power in contrast. Though these intrigues are may not be dramatically different, but they are like a puzzle, like a maze. And these mazes and puzzles together, have you seen these puzzles that you have two puzzles and they're very intricate in design, both of them, and you have to try to get them out? These intricacies, the mind is really absorbed in them, and how to get out of this maze. So that's what's similar to what's happening with the different personalities and how they will interact and what will happen and how will they get along, if they will get along. Okay, we're on insight number 98. A white line on a white paper fails to attract the mind. The mind cannot distinguish the line from the paper. Therefore, no impression is made on the mind, because there is no impression made on the paper. There is no difference between the color of the white line and the color of the paper. If the line were black, then the mind would be capable of seeing the difference between the line and the paper. Therefore, the line on the paper would make an impression on the mind. I remember there's this a person I know told me about this scientific discovery of this material that is made of, if I remember correctly, of some kind of glass that are tubular glass that are so much apart, cylinders apart a little bit, enough to let the light get in. But once the light gets in, it hits a glass and ricochets, never coming back out, but rather forever getting stuck in this maze of glass. And so therefore, the product, which is like a covering of some sort, doesn't allow 99%, a lot of the light, 99.99%, for example. A large amount of light does not get reflected out. So the human eye just cannot see anything when it sees it. It cannot distinguish any shades. It doesn't give any shades. It's all gone. So all you see is a hole, and it's interesting. I'll provide a link for you to see this, and as well as the information on it in a little bit, for you to see that. You just see a black hole. I mean, for example, if you see a black car and it's sitting there in the sun or even in a shaded place, still you can see some lighting off the black car. It's not a total black where you can't see anything. But this, you can't absolutely see anything. It's like you're seeing a hole in the wall. There's no shades. So it makes zero impression on the mind, other than there's nothing there. There you go, black hole. Insight number 99. If the line was multicolored, curved, crisscross. Crisscross, it's like crisscross or like crisscross. It's like those fries they make sometimes, crisscross. Zigzag. Patterned. Textured. Wow, different textures. If it was a picture, so this we're talking about a line or a drawing. If it was a picture, two pictures, a puzzling picture, if it represented or presented an idea, or if it was interactive, as in interacting with you somehow, communicating, then the mind would be conscious of the variety of differences present. Because the mind can notice many of their differences and engage in analyzing or focusing on those opposing or similar ideas. Yes, because the mind can notice many of their differences and engage in analyzing or focusing on those opposing or similar ideas. There you go. Insight 100. The very idea of this or that indicates that there is a difference between them. A dualism. Even the idea of two identical items indicates that this one is here while the other one is there. There is a difference of position. The mind notices them because they are different. Another meaning for the word different is unusual. The more different an idea is, the more the mind has the potential of engaging in looking, understanding, and knowing the data. Identical twins are rare. Even though they are the same, the mind still finds them fascinating because this sameness in people is rare. All right, in Insight 100, I wanted to give the example of, I wanted to mention why is it that people find the twins quite intriguing, interesting to the mind, even though they're the same. Because you would normally think, well, by the science that we're talking about, same would produce the idea of lack of interest, because it's the same, right? But this sameness is rare in people, such as if you give me two objects, two black cubes, right? Two red cubes, two whatever. It's okay, you know, it's cute. But human beings, very complex, to find two exactly the same or very close to being the same is a rare thing to see. And so that's why it's intriguing to the mind, because it's so rare.